This is the API session. It's mislabeled out in the front, so if you were going to a different session, that's what this one is. I'm going to go ahead and start, but there may be some people coming in late, and I'm just going to start on time so we can end on time. My name is Gordon Tibbits. I'm with Adipon Systems. I have various other persuasions, publishing and other background that may come relevant to why I'm moderating this session, other than I was asked just 2 days ago to do it. And I like to talk, and Melanie knew that, so she said, oh, well, you like to talk, get up here and say something. What I wanted to do is basically give you a little bit of overview of the session today. We are, certainly going to talk about APIs, and APIs are very simply put, and we can end the session now, just the way of communicating between vendors and processes, getting information back and forth in a standard format. There's all sorts of technical speak, which I will skip. I don't think that's important and relevant. I think the most important thing is getting information from point A to point B in a format that makes it easy, and APIs allow that to happen in a way that's very useful. And during today and the distinguished panelists we have, you'll get a flavor for that. The way this session is going to be managed is that Ala is going to present from Elsevier. He's going to present more of a strategic overview, sort of the why you might want to be thinking about APIs. And maybe APIs are not the end-all to everything that you need to accomplish inside an organization. And I'll let him speak to why you might not consider it a business strategy. An API is just a tool. The second, the middle layer of today, we're going to speak both Tom from Thomson Reuters and Chuck from the CCC are going to fill in the middle layer, which will be to talk somewhat from a vendor perspective, but also sort of the overall how you go about thinking about APIs, not just the consumer of them, but the builder of them, how you build them, why you build them, how they work, examples of what people do with them. And that should be a very interesting session indeed, those two presentations. And then Laura from George Washington University is going to follow up with a stunning presentation of an actual user, end user, how you actually use one of these. If you're the consumer of such a thing, if you are actually the end user in the field having to use one of these things. So what I thought I would do, just for a few minutes, mainly because I can't resist an audience on a subject that I am actually near and dear to this subject, and I'm glad that I was asked to speak to it. And I promise not to go out of bounds, but I want to talk about two major challenges that are out there that you may be aware of, and maybe this is secondhand news, but there are two challenges that I think face all of us in this industry with regards to APIs, and this is a bit about the future. And this is the ecosystem we live in. And the first challenge is a very practical one, maybe not spoken about very much, but I want to talk about it openly, because I think the more we talk about it, probably the better able we will be to find solutions to it. And that is that at a very basic level, companies need to survive. And when you're sitting down in a strategic planning session and you're a vendor, and you have a tool of some kind, an association management system, an e-content platform, editorial management system, a production management system, a finance system, you think, here are all the features and functions that I have and I'm developing for my market. And one of the things that you do is you start drawing on a board those things that might make you money, you could charge money for, those things that you might want to use to compete, that to prevent others from copying you or to make it difficult for others to copy you. And there's a tendency to start expanding your universe to think that you are the solution for all problems. And so there's a natural tendency of vendors to create barriers to interoperability, which runs against this concept of an API, which is sort of a easy access forum for exchange of information. And the way that is done, inadvertently, I'm not saying this is a deliberate attempt, it's just a natural attempt at competition, there's a tendency to create a lack of standard, and that is the challenge for us. We probably need to push back and ask that vendors that provide similar APIs provide them in a standard enough way that they're interoperable for all of the consumers of these APIs, so that you don't have to develop a different way of managing each vendor's APIs, because we're not doing anything to solve a problem if everybody has a unique one. And that would mean that, you know, in Add-upon systems, we're an e-publishing platform, those things that we expose, those things that are APIs, should be the same ones that Highwire and Silverchair have, for instance, which is a challenging statement, but that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So that's one challenge. There's another challenge that is going to have to be overcome somehow in order for APIs to be as useful as they can be, and that actually is coming from the publishing sector, all the way out to the end user. So the end user has a tendency, and I did run a publishing company once, so I guess I can be accused of knowing a little bit about publishing, but we have content, and we have ways of providing that content, and a lot of times we think, wouldn't it be a good idea to develop a very specialized search engine, a very specialized taxonomy, a very specialized discovery methodology, and make sure nobody else can copy it? So only the people that I serve, and I'm going to serve the universe, basically they have to come to me as a publisher. It's my way of competitive differentiation amongst my publishing colleagues. So, you know, I'm not saying publishers are all that way. I'm saying that there's just a natural tendency to try to create services that are also competitive. But it turns out that APIs are a two-way street. Vendors provide interoperability by providing standardized APIs that people can use to harvest and manage information. But publishers also have a responsibility of thinking about the content they're providing out to the universe the other direction, and indeed the types of services they may want to provide that are interoperable in the same fashion. So it's a two-way street. And I see if we can lower the barriers by communicating and discussing these things openly and, you know, posting standards, and I'm a very big proponent of standards and lack of patents, lack of barrier to entry for interoperability of systems. I think those kinds of things will actually improve scholarly publishing in general across the board. And so I leave you with those two challenges as future challenges. And we'll get very much more practical now, and I'd like to introduce my colleague from Elsevier to speak about the strategy of APIs.